Two of the 21 teenagers who died tragically at the Enyobeni Tavern in East London have been laid to rest. Private ceremonies were held earlier today, while a mass ceremonial service was held for the other 19 youngsters. They, of course, now will be buried between Friday and Sunday this week. The service was attended by President Cyril Ramaphosa and, of course, the Police Minister as well, Becky Cele. Our reporters Aviwe Mtile and Pulele Chweti-Jones were there. And let's speak first to Aviwe. Aviwe, a really difficult day indeed, very tragic to see those 19 coffins laid out. We know that they were empty, but they signify the lives that have been lost, cut down in their prime. Talk to us about the ceremony and how the president was received.
A very heavy and emotionally draining day, Sally, as of course all of that plenary and the people inside that hall at the Scenery Park Stadium were all heart-shattered. I mean, the president was well received, given that he spoke firmly against the sale of alcohol, especially to teenagers. He said that those children shouldn't have been sold alcohol in the first place. In fact, saying that if these taverns continue to sell alcohol to children, those tavern owners should be locked up. He went on to speak about even the age restriction now, thinking of implementing a 21 age restriction to those that can be able to consume alcohol, and also taking part of the blame, saying that the national government should take some of the blame, as well as the provincial and local government. The police won't spread the brunt of that, as well as the liquor board, the tavern goers and the taverns themselves. And some of what was an emotional tribute from the President Cyril Ramaphosa. Let's take a listen to that.
Our hearts are broken. We have lost our children here. There are parents who will not get to hug or to kiss their son or daughter again. There are grandparents who will not be blessed to see their grandson or granddaughter growing up and having their own families. In the classrooms of our schools where these children used to go, there are now empty chairs. I have come here today because I, like so many South Africans, owe a great debt to the youth of our country. The young people we are burying today have fallen, but there are many more young people that must be saved. We are here because these were not only the children of their families. We are not here to judge anyone today, particularly for what they did or did not do. We are here to mourn, and we are here to pay our condolences to the families of the 21 children.
And of course, the other thing, Aviwe, is that we don't know exactly how these children died. We know that they weren't killed in a stampede. It is very likely some form of chemical poisoning, but it has not yet been made clear exactly what kind of chemical poisoning. So these families are now burying their children, but they don't know exactly how they died. And these results surely were meant to be out by now.
Sally, nothing new in that front. We were told what we already know. We are told that, of course, on the Sunday, pathologists received the bodies, we understand, at the Woodbrook mortuary where they were examined. We were told that then those tests and the outcomes there were taken to Cape Town, where they're still currently at the toxicology lab. We weren't given a time frame in terms of when the results will then be out, but we're still being told, as together as the families, as you'd remember, that while this was a ceremonial funeral, they've already started burying their loved ones going to Sunday. It looks like by the Sunday, when the last child of the 21 teenagers is laid to rest, they'll still be none the wiser. But we did hear a firm Police Minister, Becky Cele, suggesting that these questions still need to be answered. answered, Sally, suggesting that, in fact, the Tavern owner still needs to explain, mentioning that there have been several complaints when it comes to Enyobeni Tavern and the police there, as we know, the community telling us that they haven't been affected. They haven't done anything about the Tavern itself. So he's saying that he's going to deploy a special team of detectives on the ground that will actually look at what's been happening, as we heard from some of these teenagers, how after the first 2 deaths even, they went to the local police station. There was no response. They had to get police from Fleet Street all the way in East London to come and handle the situation where there were more deaths, Sally. Let's just take a listen to the police minister, Peggy Clele, and what he had to say.
Lolu suku sulunikela ekuthuleni, want this day to be a peace day. But that does not mean that the war is not coming. But the day today is dedicated to peace. Ukuthi lezi ngane zihambe ziyolala ngokuthula. But you must come back, Mongameli, silwe sodwa, silwe sonke. Akekho la ozosinda suka kuhulumeni nationally, provincially, umasipala, amaphoyisa, abantu abanikezela ngama license, abantu abanamashiphi, abantu abakhiqiza utshwala, sonke kufanele sibuye sizela sizobuza siphendula ukuthi yini le phambi kwethu. Somebody somewhere must answer.
Of course, Sally, today I wasn't alone. I was joined, in fact, by an entire team from ENCA, one of them being Pule Lichwiti Jones. I just want to catch up with Pule now, just to get better understanding as he was inside. Pule, thank you for joining us at ENCA. But, colleague, maybe get us to better clarity on what you found out in terms of how do we ensure that this tragedy never happens again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Police Minister Peggy was quite firm to say this war is not yet over, sending a very strong message to the community to say that they will continue to uncover and ensure that the investigations they're looking into are successful. But most importantly, he also mentioned something about what you just spoke about, the multidisciplinary team, where he said he had a meeting with the National Commissioner yesterday and that he's roped in 3 prosecutors and 5 police officers to show how serious they are to try and get to the bottom of the ground of this. But once they have made an arrest, he's also mentioned that they will be addressing these issues of alcohol-related challenges within the community where we were earlier on. But most importantly, you get an idea from government when you zoom out to say that they want to ensure that the issue of liquor licenses is something that is harshly regulated. Perhaps Zizi Kodwa also speaking as the Deputy Minister of State Security, saying that government has to table some of these issues before Parliament, but most importantly, there has to be some policies which meet these regulations of licensing to ensure that this does not happen again. Perhaps maybe we can take a listen to what he had to say earlier about this issue.
And enforceability lies with owners of outlets, the owners of establishments, because not every establishment will have a policewoman or a man standing at the door. So it's the owners themselves who must know that there's a certain time in terms of trading hours, there's a certain age limit that is allowed. If they don't do that, they must know that they are committing a criminality. The issues about reviewing the laws is to make sure that what then the laws do you put in place. If you have somebody who opens instead of 2 o'clock, opens up until 4. Yeah. These are issues that have to do with licensing conditions. So I think generally the licensing regime has been too flexible and it has allowed many wrong things. And like I said to you in the morning, what we see here is just like a tip of the iceberg. There are many other areas where you find, I told you about a place called Mavuso, for an example. Sure. A few years ago in Pretoria. There was no outrage about that place. And yet the immorality that was going on in that place. And yet we want to see and mobilize communities, because in the absence of structures and communities taking place, this war against substance abuse and drugs will not be won by government only.
You know, Pule, one really wonders if all these promises will actually come to fruition, given that just over a month ago we were at the Justice for Namhla March, where it was promised that they'll apprehend that perpetrator within no time. We're still waiting. But Ule, I do understand there were talks, of course, around the legal age. Even the president mentioning that it could possibly be now ramped up to 21.
Definitely, and when you speak about how promises have been made, you look at historically how there was an issue that happened in Khayelitsha in 2015 where, you know, minors lost their lives. I think it was about 8 young women, if I stand to be corrected. You also look at the incident that happened in 2001 in Chatsworth, where there was an issue of minors as well who were in a nightclub drinking, and a similar incident happened again where there was a detonation of tear gas. And you need to ask yourself as to whether are we heading into the process of getting answers. When I spoke to the Police Minister earlier on, he said this discussion around the age restriction has been going on for the past decade. It means that government has been treating this issue with kid gloves. But most importantly, we're now seeing that the United Democratic Movement is coming forward, UDM, the provincial secretary today, Mr. Sithole, saying this is something that government needs to take seriously and ensure that they implement the restriction and lift it to 21. The president said it's a discussion that must be had in Parliament, that the age restriction must be pushed from 18 to 21. And now we're seeing what Zizi Kodwa had just said to us earlier on. But the Police Minister says hopefully this is something that can be regarded as law for the age restriction to be pushed to 21. He's been very harsh about alcohol consumption in the country, even when we were in the middle of a pandemic during COVID-19. So hopefully this is a discussion and a robust debate that must be had in Parliament amongst the ANC and of course amongst opposition parties, because this is something that the future is threatened by, and alcohol is becoming a problem. Like the president had said that according to his research, our nation is regarded as quite problematic when it comes to alcohol challenges. So it goes to show that this is a national crisis and this is an issue that has to be swiftly addressed by government.
Very problematic when it comes to those challenges of alcohol, especially given that all of this Bule is happening in Scenery Park, where almost in every street there is a tavern. In fact, there are more taverns than there are schools, libraries or churches. In fact, there's those discussions now, Sally, that are happening around the recreational facilities that are needed. Only now are those discussions happening. So you'd hope that government will actually uphold these discussions and we could actually see some movement on the ground in terms of getting the youth active and not in taverns.
Yeah, absolutely, Aviwe Mpule, and such important issues have been raised. And I think when the president said that we've got 2,000 taverns in this area and nowhere near enough sport and recreational facilities for young people, that really hits home. Later on SA Tonight, we're going to be speaking to the MEC for Sport and Recreation in the Eastern Cape to ask her exactly about that. We're also going to speak to SANCA, which is the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependency, on whether lifting the legal age for drinking to 2021 is going to make any difference, because if there aren't enough people policing who is giving out alcohol and who is drinking it, it's not going to mean very much, is it? But let's just take a listen to what the president had to say about that particular issue.
This is now a moment for us as a nation to confront this issue. And we must say we are now going to draw the line. We are now going to say, if you are a tavern and you sell alcohol to underage children, that tavern must be closed and be closed permanently. Alcohol, as we all know, is highly addictive. It is something to be consumed in moderation and responsibility, and only by those who are of a legal age to do so. Now, a number of people have been sending messages through to me and saying, President, maybe the legal age of alcohol should now be lifted to 21 rather than where it is. Now, clearly, I want this to be a national debate. I want this to be a national debate. Let us discuss it so that we can arrive at a consensus.
Yeah, important debates that need to be had. Of course, today was absolutely heartbreaking, as the President said, and the next few days are going to be heartbreaking as well, as those children are actually buried. I want to thank both of you for covering such a very sad day with such grace and insight. Avi Wemtila and Pule Lechwiti Jones coming to us live from the Eastern Cape there.